So, how much has the ERLC map really changed over the last 6 years? We spawned here at the civilian spawn. Now, this isn't exactly as it was in ERLC back in 2019, early 2020. Obviously, there wasn't a donator board here, but aside from that, I feel like the rest of this is fairly recognizable. Now, pretty much none of these surrounding buildings are here, but the civilian spawn itself is pretty much identical. Obviously, the city now expands out this way. We've got the DMV over here. No, sorry, the DMV over here, the car dealership over here. But the actual civilian spawn is pretty much identical. Like, this really hasn't changed much in, what, 6, 7 years? Up next, let's take a look at the gas station. A lot of you will remember this, very iconic from the game. I think it was updated with the map expansion of 2022, I believe. Now, in this version of the game, 2019, there was not an interior, so you couldn't go in. There's nothing really to do at the gas station except for fill up your car. But in 2020, sometime, I don't remember when, or maybe it was 2021, they added a very basic interior. So there was a little desk here, you could go in through the door, there were some shelves, and a stockroom at the back. That was pretty much it. And then a year or two later, this was completely overhauled. We now have a car wash, we've got, I believe, 2 more pumps, as well as a much more detailed interior with robbable cash registers. Oh, the fire station. Now this has gone through 3 iterations. It's had 2 updates basically. So this was the beginning. This was where it all started, this very blocky fire station. All the windows in here were decals. It did look really strange because none of the leaves showed on the trees. So it just looked pretty dead outside, funnily enough. Either way, we head in here. We've got the staircase going upstairs. In there, we've got the bunk room. Nice area to relax with your other firefighters. A fire pole, actually. That is something we do not have. But then in here, we've got I guess we just called this the chief's office. And we've got 2 other computers over here. So pretty basic. We've got the fireman's pole down there. And then this is the locker room. That is the entire fire station. 5 bays and then a gas tank out the back. So this has gone through 2 iterations, basically. Made it modernized, but it was still very much the same building. And then in 2022, it is the building we know it of today. It's a shame we don't have a fireman's pole. I guess, well, it's only a single story, the one we have in game right now, but even Springfield doesn't have a fireman's pole. So maybe we can get one of those back eventually, but I'm guessing health and safety reasons was one of the main factors for removing that. So the mod shop, this kind of looks fairly similar, to be honest, to what it does today. As you can see, the layout is pretty much identical. None of this has really changed. The building itself as well. We still have, I believe, 4 bays. The entrance over here with kind of the glass lobby and then some offices at the back. But yeah, I suppose this is actually a building that's kind of just been upgraded. But the actual design and layout of this all has remained, well, I guess pretty true to what it originally was. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the sheriff's office is the only department building to have moved in ERLC. This is where it originally was, right outside the city. You can see the city was right here, pretty much directly behind the jewelry store, which would have been a perfect place for all those people sneaking out the back. But no, it has been moved all the way to the county. The building itself as well has been updated multiple times. So, heading inside the sheriff's office, we've got the reception desk over here. We've got the communications room, I suppose you can call it. More computers, may I add, than the actual dispatch rooms in the current ERLC game. Then over here, we've got, I guess this would be the dispatch room, and that would be just some offices for people to work at. Over here is the... Oh, that is the exact same room. Okay, I do not remember that. It's been so long, I do not remember that. This I do remember, the locker room, however, and it looked the exact same in the police and sheriff's office with ammo boxes over here, guns over there. And then last room is the briefing room. There were no windows as well, which is kind of funny. It's very like secluded in here. Either way, we then head outside to this area, which I remember private servers used to love doing their STSs here, have everyone line up here in this kind of enclosed area that they can monitor things from. So since this version, we've had 2 new sheriff's offices. The one we've currently got in game, and then one I believe that was introduced around late 2020, early 2021. Do correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't exactly recall, but honestly I'd prefer the middle version. The version now I feel is missing a few things, but the version after this, which I'll put some footage up on the screen from some of the roleplays we did around that time, that was probably the best in my opinion, both from design and practicality. We've got the strip mall, I suppose we can call it that. Got the jewelry store over here, and then the newly added tech shack over here on the left. Now the building itself obviously has been updated, but I guess it remains very similar in terms of design. Obviously the colors and stuff have changed, but I suppose you could see how they're related. The jewelry store itself has been definitely upgraded, both in size, the amount of jewels they're selling. So you can see here we've only got like 2 or 3 counters, and then we've got the desk back here. That is pretty much it. This is probably one of the buildings that has changed the least. Even though it's been completely rebuilt from scratch, it's still very much recognizable to new and old players. Liberty County Hospital. One of my first ever ERLC videos was made here. Now, this was revamped in the summer update of 2021 and has not really been touched since then. We're going to give a quick tour, I suppose, of the original building. We've got the reception desk over here. We've got the bottom floor corridor and then a bunch of doctor's offices over here. A lot of these assets are pretty recognizable because I believe they've either used the same assets or they've updated these slightly, but they're still very much recognizable. You can see when we look outside the windows, none of the trees have leaves because we're looking through, I believe it's just like a decal or a texture. So that is pretty funny. Core ERLC memories from 2020. Either way, some more doctor's offices, recovery rooms, that's the front desk. We've got some patient rooms over here, pretty much the same, led up to the 2nd floor, however. And then, yeah, we've got some more patient rooms over there. The operating rooms, I do remember these. And then pretty much the same over here, a couple of offices as well. It is quite funny how many rooms this hospital had. It was quite a big hospital for the server size of, what, 20 players, I think, back in the day. So fairly impressive, I gotta say. Fairly impressive. But anyways, the hospital has been updated once. Since then, it's now the building that currently stands in game. Comparing the two, I think the new one we have is definitely an upgrade. I'm happy with it, honestly. Definitely some things to add to it in the future and some more features and functionalities to roleplay with. But compared to this, yeah, it's pretty solid. When will they update this building? Apart from changing the texture on the outside, this building has not been touched in what, 6-7 years? That is crazy. It's the only building, except for the parking garage, to have survived the summer 2022 and 2021 updates, where they basically remodeled and rebuilt every building from scratch. I wonder what they'll do with this. Like, it's a good place to build a courthouse, I guess. Lots of room. It's kind of a thin plot of land, but still, a lot of things they could build on here. So I'm sure the devs have something in mind, but I guess the question is when. Welcome to the River City Police Department Metro Precinct. And this is a very memorable building for me. Lots of role plays in here back in the day. Pretty basic layout. We've got the locker room over here, very similar to the sheriff's office. Got a captain's room, sergeant's room, something like that. Office in here, office in there. This was the, I guess, communications dispatch room. And then this was empty. Maybe they were going to put a briefing room in here. I have no idea what the devs had planned with this, or maybe they've run out of space and then just left it as an empty room. You could roleplay it, but either way, this was a great multi-purpose room we could use for whatever we needed. Since this, we had a update in 2021 and then an update in 2023, I believe, or maybe it was 2024. No, it must have been 2023 to the current police department we have now. It's maybe slightly controversial, but honestly, I prefer the 2021 version over anything. It had 2 floors, a dispatch room up top. It actually had a holding cell, which none of the stations in-game have at the moment. It had a nice front desk. We had a pretty big meeting room as well, or a briefing room. And it was my favorite design of building. The exterior just looked really, really nice and pretty modern, pretty fitting with the whole ERLC aesthetic. Right, I found an NPC. Anyways, yeah, might be slightly controversial, but I prefer the 2021 PlayStation over pretty much anything else. The power plant surely is pretty recognizable because, well, it hasn't really changed. The building attached to the power plant has, and that was revamped with the summer update of 2022, but everything else hasn't. You know, they've got a new fence around here, but these steam stacked towers are still here. Those electricity generators are still there. I'm not really sure what they could do with the power plant unless they turned it into a civilian job and added an interior to the building. You could maybe work on some maintenance of the generators, do some deliveries of assets. But yeah, apart from that, I'm not really sure what they could do with the power plant because I don't really see a problem with that. You may notice the absence of a DOT station just behind the power plant. And, well, that's because it was added to the game in late 2019, just before I started YouTube. So, yeah, it wasn't in the base game. Welcome to the Liberty County Prison. I actually remade this in Roblox Studio back in the day, a good few years ago. But the interior is very, very basic. So we've got this entranceway, nothing really in here. We've then got a ramp up to here, where it's like a viewing platform. I guess I can change into a prisoner. Again, this was not in the main game. And there we go, we're in the prison. So that is where you'd stand and cuff rush or drop people into prison. And, well, this is the prison. We had, I think it was less than 20 prison cells. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be too many in here. And then we've got a little yard out the back. Very nice, very simple, very basic, but it did the job. Couple of tables over here as well. And I do remember the glitches where people would be teleporting ladder trucks inside of here. Got very chaotic in here back in the day. And then last up is probably the housing suburb. All of these houses, I remember this one we used to use for the president. This was a big mansion, even though there were others of this house. It was like the grand one at the top of the street. But yeah, all the houses have now been updated. They've all got interiors now. They all look much more like those modern American suburban households. In this version of the game 2019, you can actually go inside, so the houses were just there. They had an update, I believe in early 2020, where you could buy the houses, you teleport inside them. The interior was somewhere floating in the sky. And then, yeah, there was a nice small interior with living room, a couple of bedrooms, and there wasn't even a garage. So anyways, thank you very much for watching this video. It's always fun coming back to old versions of ERLC and actually just seeing how small the map was, because we can literally see to the other side of the map. There's a police station over there, city in the background. Yeah, pretty funny. Either way, thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to subscribe, and I'm looking forward to seeing what other buildings ERLC add in the future or even update, because there are definitely some buildings that they could be revamping sometime this year.